go back to the fight against ISIS in Iraq. Just how the Iraqis might defeat ISIS has once again become an out-front debate in Washington. Correspondent Sunlen Sefaty joins us now from the White House. And obviously it's been a year since ISIS took Mosul. How committed is the US to destroying and degrading ISIS? And what did President Obama mean when he revealed at that G7 summit that there isn't a complete strategy?
Well, Linda, the White House is really on the defensive about that very point, really trying to push back and explain exactly what President Obama meant when he said that yesterday. The White House says the president was specifically referencing his request of the Pentagon to come up with a new strategy, a new plan to specifically accelerate the training and the equipping of the Iraqi security forces. They say he was not referencing the broader overall strategy against ISIS, but certainly this has really opened up the administration to a lot of criticism, really thrown a lot of fuel on the fire to people who were already concerned about the administration's strategy, specifically since the fall of Ramadi. Now, the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee here, he says he believes the administration's strategy has failed and ISIS is succeeding. Here's Chairman McCall.
We don't have a complete strategy. That was not really a surprise because we haven't had a strategy in Iraq. Ever since ISIS popped up, all we've done is contained the threat. We have had no strategy to destroy and defeat ISIS. And that's my biggest concern. As the chairman of Homeland Security, I think the best way to protect Americans is to drain the swamp over there rather than swat at mosquitoes here in the United States.
Now back to that review by the Pentagon, the White House says that it is not complete yet, in part because the president says that requires more commitments from the Iraqi government to be more inclusive, to recruit more fighters, and bring more Sunni fighters into the mix. Linda?
And Sunlen, of course, the former U.S. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, who is one of the architects of the 2003 invasion of Iraq, now is questioning one of those goals. He told the Times of London that the then President George W. Bush was wrong to push democracy on Iraq. He said, and I quote, "The idea that we could fashion a democracy in Iraq seemed to me unrealistic. I was concerned about it when I first heard those words." Rumsfeld, of course, served as Bush's defense secretary from 2001 to 2006, and he's been a sharp critic of the current US President Barack Obama's handling of Iraq. But at the time when he was defense secretary, he was one of the staunchest defenders of the war in Iraq. These comments really seem to reveal a huge change in his position.
Absolutely a big change and very surprising to those inside of Washington and outside of the country as well. As you noted, he was one of the chief architects of this policy, really a defender not only of his time here in the administration from 2001 to 2006, but he had an essential role in the designing of that strategy and then had to go on to publicly defend it. A lot of people today looking for clarification of these comments that he said to the Times of London because it's such a departure from what he said previously, and certainly comes at an interesting time, Linda, as we were just discussing, as the U.S. looks at their broader strategy against ISIS in Iraq. Linda?
Okay, we'll leave it there. Sunlen Sefaty, thank you very much for joining us.